This is the first of a two-part series we're doing on what it is to be a therapist and how to get there. Today's episode, we're going to talk about the actual requirements to get the degree and the licensure. Well, not even the licensure. We'll talk about that maybe in the second one, but to how to get the degree to be a therapist, what different kinds of degrees there are, considerations when choosing the kind of degree you want to get, things of that fun nature.
And next time, the next episode is going to be talking about what it actually is in a lived experience to be a therapist, and what the good and the bad is. And spoiler alert, it is really good.
It is really good, and there are some real bad.
Yeah, there is real bad, but that just keeps it spicy, like Mexican food.
That's right. Yes. Cool. And cue the music.
Well, good morning, Taylor.
Pete, how are you?
How's your body battery today?
It says it's 72.
Oh, nice. Well, we're all happy.
Woo.
Yes.
Yes.
All-
Yes. Alive, awake.
Yeah, we're very concerned about your body battery.
Yes. I woke up this morning expecting there to be a censored drink in my fridge because there were two last night, and apparently my wife took both of them this morning, which was a real bummer.
Yeah.
So today's non-censored drink is the Good Doctor of Pepper.
Yes. Thank you for Dr. Pepper for the win.
Yes, Dr. Pepper for the win. I'm trying not to drink sugar caffeine, but apparently today I am.
Yeah, I've
Good times.
stocked my garage fridge with sugar-free options of all the caffeine I can think of.
I'm in a weird place. Like I can't do diet or zero anything because aspartame and stevia taste like metal to me. It gives
Oh.
me an immediate headache.
Sugar gives me a headache. If I drink sugar, I get this headache in the base of my skull, the back of it.
Looks like somebody's not going to get diabetes. Oh, wait.
Which is funny because my daughter does have diabetes.
Does she really?
Yeah, my 13-year-old. That was a magical day.
That's too bad. Oh, I bet. I bet. How do you find yourself today, Pete?
Let's see. Well, that is a great mindfulness question. Hold on.
Thank
Hold
you.
on. I'm going to start. Let's see. If I'm going to check in with myself, as I often tell people, I'm going to check in with myself. My energy is probably at like 85, 90%. I'm doing well. I feel my muscles because we did some tree trimming yesterday. Got a little more to do, but I'm excited to get things done. My mind is here. Like it's tempted to go off into other things I have to do, but I find it's very easy to settle in this podcast because we got some pretty cool stuff to think about. So I'm here. I'm really happy to be here. How are you doing, Taylor?
How am I doing? I am tired. My body battery is higher. I feel so. I learned recently the difference between being tired and being fatigued. Fatigue is like full body tired, like your muscles they feel like they can't do anything. I have no fatigue in my body, but I am tired. I could go back to sleep, which is an interesting delineation for me. I am interested in our topic today in a way that I didn't expect to be. Just going over the stuff that you put in already, I'm like, oh, this is going to be going in a direction I was not expecting it to, which is fun. I am feeling a little overwhelmed by some of the stuff I've got to get done. And yeah, that's how I'm doing. I feel super busy. I feel like I'm super, super, super busy all the time.
I wonder how many times, as you're telling me about your day, and the honest feedback we get reminds me of when we were in Europe. And if you ask somebody how they're doing in America, you usually get the fine. Like that's the American. You get good. If you ask somebody,
which they hate over there, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you stupid Americans.
You ask someone in post-Russian Europe, and they'll tell you about how their
post-Soviet Russia still exists.
Yeah, sorry, post-Soviet. They'll tell you how they're like their dog recently died and their kid doesn't talk to them anymore, and they're like going to get kicked out of their apartment. Whatever. Like they will tell you everything when you ask them how they're doing. And as an American, you just kind of like, oh, ha, thanks for. Okay, well, like feel like you have to do something about it. Like you need to take that and do something, but they don't expect you to do anything. They just are telling you because you asked.
Just giving you an honest answer. Yeah.
Yeah. So how many people listening to this when someone, well, not if they ask you, you still give the American answer, but really check in with yourself. You listener, how are you doing? And list off, even out loud, how are you doing? Are you nervous about the things you have going on for the day or whatever? but to really check in with yourself is so rarely done. And you and I just did it now with like honest answers. Um, how
Yeah.
often does that really happen?
I
How
would
about you?
hope it happens more, honestly. Like, I feel like one of the things that really my mission really changed for me is specifically people saying, you Americans saying, fine, it doesn't mean anything. I really took that to heart. And so I tried to really instill that into my experiences with the world. People ask me how I'm doing. I go, how am I doing? I'm tired, or
Hmm.
I'm a little bummed today, or I'm feeling really great. And people tend to be surprised by the answers, but I feel good. I feel happy with the outcome, so that's good.
Today we're going to talk about not just feeling good in general. We actually have a specific topic. We're talking about our professions.
Butts, professions. We're talking about not our butts. We're talking about professions.
Yeah,
Sorry,
talking about our professions, which are different but similar in
like
some
our butts.
ways. Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to go there, but anyway. Mental health. We're talking about our professions in mental health. You can go several different ways to get to the same kind of clinical work, and how you get there really defines how you handle it once you are there. So,
That's true. And not only that, like, so we're going to go through the different kinds of degrees you can get, but within each degree, there's different kinds of degree, like different specialties. For example, my degree is very unique in that it's a master's degree in existential phenomenology, which is like a very unique way of approaching mental health that most places don't really get into. So within each subset is another subset of like CBT forward or uh, mindfulness forward or like different programs and different focuses. So
oh, that is interesting. I
yes,
wore
but
my
Pete, before we even go, oh, you wore your what? Go ahead.
I wore my phenomena shirt today when you talked about
Yes.
phenomenology.
What is your
Phenomena.
phenomena shirt?
Here, I'll let you see it. So it says on the front, social work science is serious.
Pete is taking his shirt off for me right
Yeah,
now.
well, that's my flannel. So social work science is serious in the front.
And on the back, it says phenomena. And Pete actually gave me a version of that shirt. He sent one to me, and I
Oh,
do
that's
wear it,
right.
and it makes me happy.
It is just the silliest bright orange nonsense shirt.
Yeah. So I live in Austin, in the Austin metro. And so there's UT Austin has a very bright orange. The orange that Pete is wearing for University of Tennessee, which I guess is also a UT,
Yeah.
uh, is like it's like a more neon orange than even the burnt orange that is the UT color. It's very bright and eye catching. I'm curious, Pete, before we get into the types of degrees, why on earth did you become a therapist?
Oh man. So much like other people, having a life experiences that that I felt stuck in, and looking around to say, how do I get unstuck? And I end up looking into mental health. It wasn't necessarily for me, even though people say therapists get into the profession to diagnose themselves. For
Which
me,
bothers me. My dad told me that when I was a kid. He's like, I want to be a therapist. And he's like, the only therapists that I know are people who should go to therapy themselves. And so I talked myself out of it for a couple decades.
yeah, I didn't get into it right off because my family was what they call hard science, and soft science sounds like an insult. Like therapy, yeah, when you say mental health, it's not based on actual science, it's based on soft science. And so I studied biology first because that's, you can observe that. That's very positivist. The world
Mm-hmm.
is a certain way and it's observed the same way all the time. Anyway, so why I got into mental health, my stuck point was when I was trying to help somebody um, in the Air Force. And
Hmm.
I found out that they were having a very hard time, very hard time. And it was late at night. I was on the second floor of a C5. It was snowing sideways, and this guy was just had his head in his hands and just said he just can't even, like, his problems at home and whatever. And I realized in that moment, at that time, right then, I had nothing. I had no words. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do.
Hmm.
I knew that there were professions that like knew what to do with this guy. And for me, always in my Air Force career, it was about the people. In the Air Force, the aircraft are taking off. Other maintenance officers were like, taking off on time. That's all we need. That's our payday. Taking off on time, code one. That's all. It's fixed. And I would be standing there going, yeah, but what's it doing? Why are we killing ourselves to launch these aircraft? Are they killing bad guys? Are they taking water to refugees? Are they moving innocents? Like, what are we doing? And I needed to know. I needed to know. So when I was on the second floor at 2 a.m. with a crew chief who was having a really hard time, that was it for me. That was the reason why I got into mental health and the military in general, because I want to help people. And so there was a
Mm,
person right in front of me that I could not help. I had no tools whatsoever to help. And knowing the people that I knew also as a maintenance officer that needed help, they needed to talk, they needed help, and they wouldn't, because in maintenance in the military you have this ivory tower of mental health over in the medical building, and if you need
mm,
help, you go make an appointment. And who of these grizzled old maintainers is going to take the time to go make an appointment? You've got to be. So I wanted to be that guy who goes out and talks to people and is accessible and takes mental health out to people. These tools that I so desperately wanted, I wanted to take them out to the
mm.
people that needed them. Anyway, so that was my stuck point. That was how I
I don't think I
got
knew
my
that
motivation.
before. I remember you and I going out to dinner. Where was that? We met in Washington somewhere. You were at a conference, but I feel like it was very
Oh
early in your
yeah,
mental health career.
I was becoming a designated crisis responder in Washington State. Yeah, I went to that training.
Right. Right. Where did we meet up? I just remember it was like a drive for both of us, I think.
Yeah, beats me.
I guess it doesn't matter. But I remember you came into this later than I did, and I came into it fairly late. And I bring that up to say that this is not a profession that you have to be young to succeed in. I would say that most people kind of view the older therapists as the better therapists. It's like lawyers and therapists are the two professions I can think of where the older you get, the more people like you.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this implicit assumption that you know what you're talking about. And what helps in therapy also is you bring your life experience into the therapy room with you. Because
Hmm.
as this 19-year-old is telling me how the worst thing they've ever experienced is their girlfriend breaking up with them. Like, and they're honestly shattered. Like, they're really really shattered. That's real pain that they felt. But with this life experience of like, I know you will get over this. There's no doubt in my mind. This is the worst thing you can deal with. Suicidal thoughts are coming up. Got it. We deal with those, but you will. Like, you are a strong person. And so I come having a deeper life experience going forward with this. You bring all that, and I think it really helps you as a therapist. Not that young therapists aren't good, but I mean, you become better as you get older, as with most things.
I think that's true, and I think they're the people that I know who joined later. Like there's the woman I named my daughter after. I met her in my cohort when I was getting my master's degree, Alex Sabia. She's a therapist. She came into this. Think she turned 50 in the program, and she had been doing pharmacological sales before that. And she is so good at her job. She
Wow.
specializes in marathon marriage and family counseling sessions. It's a Gottman
What?
technique she's certified in. And she's so good at it because her entire lived experience up to that point, even though it wasn't grounded in mental health as a finite construct, was still very well served by her relationship with her husband who had recently passed away, her time selling as a doctor's in doctors' offices. So coming into this profession, who you are is the most important thing that you bring to it by
Yes.
far.
Yeah. I
Not
imagine
even close.
there's some mystery of the medical field that gets taken away when you have all that experience too. Um,
Yeah.
but I still remember being terrified. I remember my very first client, and she was a teenage girl coming in with saying that she was feeling depressed, and I remember being terrified. Like, I got to use all this professionalism and all this learning and use it on this
Hmm.
person to help them, and the implications that I know what the heck I'm doing is really heavy.
Yeah. I remember it's weird. My first client was a teenage boy, and I remember he had been 12. He was a young kid coming from a pretty troubled background. It was a school. And I remember thinking the same thing, like, what am I doing? What do I do? How am I going to be a therapist? And I kind of wish I could go back in time and smack myself up to the side of the head and say, just shut up and listen.
Yes.
That's all you need to
Yeah.
do.
Exactly.
Ask questions.
We had we had that guest on who was uh, uh, suicidal survivor. And
Mike, yeah.
yes, and I loved the point he made when you asked, what would you tell somebody in the same situation? And his response was, there's nothing logical you can say. There's no point of like aha moment
Yeah.
you can give someone who's in that deep. You just listen. You just sit and listen to
Hmm.
them. I'll just sit and listen. I was like, man, he didn't answer your question, and I loved it. That was the response.
He super answered the
You
question.
don't say anything. You don't try to convince them out of it or say anything logical.
Yeah. Which I can see someone saying, well, if all you do is listen, then why am I paying you so much money to listen?
That is a great
To which,
question.
because I need the money, man.
Yeah. You came to my
Because we do
office.
more than listen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You came to me, man. No, because we do more than just listen. You know, we have experience and we have knowledge about how these things interact. And I think we made actually a very interesting case over the last, I think this is our 20th episode, Pete, over the last 20 episodes about what it is that we actually bring to the room in terms of understanding the context, in terms of understanding interactive diagnostics, in terms of understanding just the thing you're talking about. We know it. We know it. And that makes a difference.
Yeah. And you've listened to like 500 people before you, so I can see patterns in what you're saying with the other 500
Mm-hmm.
people. You'd be surprised that what you're experiencing isn't unique.
Yeah, man, what an eye opener that was. I feel like everybody's like, "Oh, I've got this thing. It's going to really shock you." I'm like, I highly doubt that. I really have
Yeah,
the cliche.
I
Like, I've
doubt
heard
it.
everything. Let me tell you what, dude. I have heard pretty much everything.
Hmm.
Like, think of the worst thing that you can think of. I can almost guarantee you, anybody who think of the worst thing somebody's ever told you they've lived through. I guarantee you, I've heard worse. Think of the worst thing that you've been through. I can almost guarantee you, I've heard worse.
Yeah. Which is an important point if you're thinking about entering mental health or you're wondering about mental health. This is a huge, heavy thing. As a therapist, you do carry because you have to keep it under wraps. You might consult with other therapists in general terms, but you don't bring it home. You don't talk to your kids about what you did for work that much. It is
Mhm.
it
And
is a
even if you
burden.
do, it doesn't go well. Like I remember one time with Kat, we'd been married. I don't know. We were back in Seattle, so it was after Boston. So been married for maybe 3 or 4 years at this point. And someone gave me some information that day. It was one of those days where I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's a new one." And so I came home and I mentioned to Kat more than I should have, honestly, without any HIPAA identifying information. But I did tell too much. And to me, like I was saving the bad stuff. I was just telling her the whatever stuff,
Yeah.
and she just broke down sobbing and she said, "Never tell me that ever again." And I went, "What?"
Oh man. I just see
Oh
Kat
man,
as this
what's
wonderful person who just empathizes with people so deeply.
yeah,
And
yeah. And that's not a reflection on her, right? And that's what you're saying too. I know for me, when she said that, it really struck me like, oh, it's weird what I do for a living. It's
yeah,
weird that I can do this and not be bothered by it. So
that
that
is
is
strange.
a big part of this is people will tell you things that would make the average person just like
Yeah,
kind
and
of sit in the corner and curl up.
yeah, and it's not a one-upping competition. It's not like we're bragging about hearing these awful things.
Oh
It is
man.
just part of work. It is the work. I remember Katie's when we were first starting this profession, and my wife would say, "Did you hear about this thing?" And I was like, I don't want to hear it." And her friends would tell her stories about their community. It's like this happened in Audrey's community, and I was like, "Do you want to hear what happened in our community?" No. Okay. Like I'm not going to play the one upping game. We will win if you want me to give you ammunition, and
Uh-huh.
it's horrific, and I don't want to play that game.
Yeah. To which, I feel like I should say that for every horrible thing that I've heard in my life, I've heard at least 15 amazing stories, right? Like, and even sometimes from the same person. Somebody will tell me about this terrible piece of abuse that they were subject to when they were a kid that just is like a horror movie.
Hmm.
And then you hear about who they become as people, and you're just like, well, this is what a beautiful person you become. And that's kind of part of the payoff for me, like seeing the change that people go through because people really do change and
Hmm.
can change and do beautiful things in the face of horrific things.
I guess what we're talking about then is as a therapist, you are a holder of people's stories. You get a lot of stories, and people need to explore their stories with somebody, and you get to hold that with them.
Yeah.
It's heavy
Which
for
is
both
really
of you.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it really is amazing. We had Judge Peterson on, and he told us that magnificent story about someone um, practicing forgiveness in the courtroom. And I remember he told that story of someone forgiving their abuser and just feeling like that was a moment. That must have been
Yeah.
an amazing moment in the courtroom. Those kind of stories in
Yeah, I
personal
bet it
lives.
was. Yeah, it's the best. Just the best. Um Let me tell you why I became a therapist. Uh because people just tell me stuff all the time. Like people will I think I might have told the story before, but I remember I was in a car one time driving with some friends, and my friend brought her cousin who was super depressed looking, and I didn't. I was 22. Like, I didn't know, whatever. I didn't even think I was even majoring in psychology at that point. But we were in the car and we got into a car accident. And it was a very minor car accident. It was because the person driving the car was a bad driver. And she would say, yes, I'm a bad driver. I shouldn't have been doing what I did.
Okay.
So we're sitting on the side of the road outside of the restaurant we were driving to, waiting for the cops to show up. And this guy who we'd been with for the last couple of hours, who had said literally nothing, he just turns to me and goes, I just broke up with my girlfriend and I'm really depressed. My cousin made me come because I'm so depressed, but I'm so sad right now. And I went,
Oh my
oh,
goodness.
okay.
Yeah.
What happened? And he just told me everything. And I literally remember nothing between. So he said that. I went, oh, what happened? And he just talked. And then we went into the restaurant eventually and sat down. And he turned to me and said, I feel so much better. Thank you. I went, for what? I didn't do anything. But moments like that happened to me a lot. In fact, there's one person that we'll kind of maybe talk about why you shouldn't be a therapist if you haven't had training. I had a friend who needed to see a therapist. She really needed to see a therapist, but she didn't trust people. She trusted me.
Mm.
And at this point, I was majoring in psychology as an undergrad. And I was like, oh, I can help you.
Oh, you were the
I
one
can
who was
totally
not
help you.
licensed.
Yeah, no, not even close. Not even close. Like, still had 2 years to go before I finished my undergrad. And so we worked together, and there were major boundary issues. And we would have like mock therapy sessions where it was like we had a time schedule. She'd come and she would talk about her stuff, but she was also my friend. And she would like, at the time, I was having a hard time paying my bills because I just couldn't find work. And so one day she just gave me $1,000. And then I took her home to meet my family. And like, we weren't dating. There was nothing romantic, but the whole thing was really messed up. And it killed I probably did more harm to her than I even am comfortable admitting. But like, part of being a therapist is learning how to hold these boundaries and how to have these conversations. And I pushed too hard in some of these conversations, and I didn't hold enough boundaries, and it just destroyed. It destroyed.
That would be a really confusing,
more
confusing relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you guys to each other?
Yeah. But people like that in my life were fairly common. Not that specific situation, but people who would just talk to me about their problems, and I would listen and try and help. So I thought, well, I should probably get paid for this. So again, like I've mentioned before, like I had low self-confidence, low self-esteem, but I knew I was good at this. And so
what was the waiter story you mentioned before? There was either you were the waiter or someone else was the waiter, but you said it was a life-changing experience that drew you to counseling.
Yeah, I got a job at a restaurant in Provo called Los Hermanos, which if you've ever lived in Provo is kind of a it's like an institution that people in college there work at. And so I got a job there, and the day that I finally passed the waiter exam, my first thing after that, my first oh dude, I'm killing it today. My first rotation. What's the word?
Shift.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Goodness gracious. My first shift after passing the waiter's exam, I was in a section of the restaurant nobody was sat in because that's what they do with all the new people. And so the first people were terrible. They left me a 50-cent tip, and maybe I was terrible too. I don't know. But the second people that sat down were these two women, Janine and Marcia. And they sat down and we were talking, and Janine goes, after we talked for a few minutes, she goes, huh, you know, you seem like an interesting person. Would you ever want to come and work at a center for children? You could teach them how to play guitar. You could teach them music, but I'm the director of a program at a mental health clinic.
What?
And I went, yeah, okay. Yeah, that sounds great. She goes, cool. We're hiring right now. I look forward to seeing your resume. And I went, yeah, sure. And of course I didn't do it because that's insane, right? There's no way that she meant that. 1 week later to the day at the exact same time, she showed up and requested my section. And then she sat down. I said, oh, hey, it's you again. She goes, yeah, I didn't see your resume. Why not?
Wow.
And I went, because I didn't think you meant it. She said, I meant it. I expect to see your resume on my desk. And then she went and she got a copy of the application and brought it back and left it at the restaurant for me to fill out. Changed my life. Completely changed my life. So I filled it out. I applied. I got the job, and I changed my major about a month later.
From waiting to counseling.
Excellent. Yes, I was food preparation. No, I was getting a master's degree. I was getting my undergraduate degree in sound production and audio design.
Oh, okay. Wow. Holy cow.
Yeah.
I was thinking, how the heck do you remember the names of your second patrons? Like this, the people that used to.
Because Janine was my boss for a year and a half.
Oh, man.
She actually wrote one of my letters of recommendation for grad school. I love Janine so much. She changed my life. I wouldn't more than almost anybody in this profession. She shaped where I went and how I did it
Yeah.
because I got to see her. I helped her run groups for these kids too, and so like I watched her as a therapist. I was like, oh, this is what therapy is. I don't even think I knew what therapy was, but
hmm
she showed me. It was amazing. Oh, all hail Janine Candelot. I love her
Yeah, it
so
sounds like
much.
she didn't meet you at a crossroads. She like made the crossroads.
She brought the equipment and made an entirely new road exist out of
Yes,
nothing.
exactly. She was like, "Oh, there's a road over here." But there's not a road. Yes, there is.
So now we're at the point, Pete. You and I have gone through our big moments. We want to be therapists. We think, now what?
Okay, so you make the decision. I want to be a therapist. Um, and there are all different types of therapists, different flavors, and
Mm-hmm.
honestly, it's hard for me to expertly differentiate between a lot of different therapists, except anecdotally what I've seen. I've worked in community mental health with a lot of these different types of therapists, and I know the education levels for my own. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll just talk about social work and maybe some of the other degrees that I know of. Social work, the terminal degree, the practicing degree is a master's. It's a
Mm-hmm.
MSW, Masters of Social Work. With that,
Real quick, just to jump in to
yeah,
clarify what terminal means, because somebody said that to me once. I was like, what does that mean? A terminal degree means I don't need any more education after this degree in order to effectively work within the field.
yes, exactly. That's all you need is an MSW for social work to work in the field.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and so there's basically two levels of postgraduate work to be a therapist that you should consider. There's a master's degree and there's a doctoral degree. And every degree actually does accomplish different things. And so Pete has his master's degree in social work, and so to you, Pete.
All right. So in social work, you can continue on with social work and get a doctoral level practicing doctorate, and that's a DSW, doctor of
Let's
social work.
focus just on what a master's degree is.
Oh,
We'll go to
master's degree.
the doctoral level.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So, like the experience of a master's degree is 2 years of not only learning the language of a social worker, but learning different ways to manage the conversations that Taylor and I have talked about, how to do therapy. But also, social workers, we work in vulnerable populations. It could be mental health, it could be um, consulting for public policy. You could be running a program for like helping women get jobs or something like that. A school social worker where you work with kids. I see social workers as really a Swiss Army knife of public service when it comes to
Hmm.
mental health. Our job is to navigate bureaucracy or mental health systems or something really confusing for those who just can't navigate. Social workers, we work for them. Like people who can't. One of my field placements was in an oncology center for cancer patients, and it was in Wyoming. So people were having a hard time coming here. They have to drive 2 hours to get their infusions, and then they have to drive another 2 hours, and that's a lot of gas for somebody for someone who doesn't have the money to do that. So we started writing grants for gas money, and after a while, we get
Hmm.
these cards to give to people, these gas cards to help them get to the oncology center. And these people, honestly, we become experts in those systems so that they don't have to. They don't have gas money, and that's it. That's the brick wall for them. And so we're like, hold on, let's see what we can do. And we creatively try to navigate the system, see what are the options, and then work with it. Sometimes we can do stuff like that. Sometimes we can't. Sometimes we help them navigate it themselves. But that's what I see social workers as doing: navigating politics, medical care, mental health, whatever it is. It can be
Hmm.
seen in a lot of different places. And if you go beyond we'll just stick with master's degrees then. We'll just
Yeah.
go. Okay.
We'll go to the doctors because you're going to be a doctor of social work, and you will be able to speak expertly about that, I'm sure, as well.
Okay. So we'll stay with the master's degrees for now.
Yeah.
When I was working with in community mental health, I would work with marriage and family therapists, licensed
The old
marriage and family.
MFTs.
Yeah, licensed marriage and family therapists are LMFTs. So you'll see LMFT, and that is the same as MFT, is just licensed. Um,
Mm-hmm.
MAs are counselors. You can get a degree in mental health counselors, but that Taylor's, I believe, wheelhouse.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. So MFT, specifically marriage and family therapy, what they work with, their training entirely is focused, not entirely, but almost entirely is in systems. It's how family systems operate, how relationships within family of origin play out, long-term implications, how to fix marital problems. So they'll look at like family dynamics. They'll look at uh, how having children changes things, and they are family systems oriented. They like working with more than one person at a time. They like working within the systems that is created within a relationship. That's their wheelhouse. That's their jam, and they love it. That's a unique specialty. It is not my jam. I used to do a lot of that, and it's hard. This is like just me personally. MFT work is hard for me because you have to have more. For me, I have to have more energy in the room than the two people combined. And if you have two people in the room who are like mad at each other and yelling at each other, being able to rise above their combined anger and squash them back down almost every time. At before a session I get anxious, and after the session
yes.
I'm jittery.
Yeah, I've felt that same way. I've worked with couples, and it's not that when you say rising above, it's not that you become louder or you become more angry and
Although
whatever.
sometimes you have to
Yeah,
get
well, you
louder.
have to, guys, stop. Like, you do have to do that, but just holding their anger and then managing your own frustration, because I see the obvious problem. I can see the way you
Hmm.
just said that is antagonizing, and you did that on purpose to antagonize her. Why did you? And so I have to like manage.
Even hearing you talk in that tone, I'm like, I feel my anxiety going
Exactly,
up. Like,
exactly.
oh.
So I realized that I just said that. I just said that in a frustrated way, the way that I spoke. And as a couples counselor, family counselor, you have to be like, wow, you just said something really antagonizing to her. Was that on purpose, or is that
I
just natural?
actually I
Oh man.
disagree with that. I think my specialty is bringing my humanity into the session. And there are multiple times, and I've had success doing couples counseling. People who've been like, "You are a great couples counselor." I'm like, great. I don't ever want to do this again. But there are
Yes,
definitely times
yeah.
where I'll say, and let me see if I can even channel the voice. Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Shut up. Are you like this all the time? Is this what he's like all the time? Of course she hates you, dude. Stop it.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. Oh, 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 I hate having to go to that place.
Yeah. And is that forced, or is that your natural, like, oh my gosh, can't handle this guy anymore? Or do you say it on purpose
That's
for attack for a reason?
that it was a very natural response of just like, shut up. Oh goodness gracious, shut up.
Yeah.
And I literally have said it like that to people in session, and they always do the same thing. Did you just say that to me? And I go, yeah, I said that to you. You're annoying as shit, dude. Shut up. Learn to listen. You're killing your relationship because you need to be right. And for what? For what? It's going to cost you everything. Congratulations. You did a great job.
Because
Yeah.
you won every argument. Therefore you lost your
Yes. Here's
marriage.
your medal. Now get out of your house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Apologies for people who are just triggered by that.
Sorry. Hearing you talk about, I remember you told me this story before, and being like overly being impolitely honest, I guess
Yeah.
is the term. Impolitely but useful.
Direct.
Yes, direct. Direct with
Yes.
people.
Because I don't think it was impolite, because I don't value you less, but I will tell you you're being an idiot.
I have used that actually when I was in a family session. I think I've told this story before, but I took a line from your book, and I'd said, when did you let her start wearing the pants in the relationship? And there was no pause, no hesitancy, no offense. They just looked at each other and they were like, oh, 5 years probably. It's about 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow. I thought I was being super direct and almost bordering impolite, but they just took it as oh yeah, it's obvious. Yeah. They just took it
Yeah,
that way.
and they need those kind of conversations. So if you're going to do MFT work, you've got to be comfortable having those kinds of like, I need to
Yes.
get bigger and use my authority. Like I feel like some of the MFTs I know, not true of every MFT. The one MFT in particular I can think of who actually has a doctorate, super arrogant. Oh, this guy just drives me nuts. But he uses that arrogance in such a way that he can control any room he's in with so much effect that it's frustrating how good he is at his job. He's like the surgeon,
Oh yeah, the
the
arrogant
surgeon
surgeon.
of the
Yeah. You want somebody who thinks they're God if they're going to be opening you up and working on you. That kind of thing.
yeah.
I
So
I
that's an MFT.
yeah, I don't agree that they have to be bigger in every case. I think
Hmm.
that you can get the same response, and I have, when I am quiet and they are both quiet, and I stop and I just wait. And then they deflate after a while and the argument blows over, and I have not interjected at all, but they know they're just arguing in front of me. And I'm like, you guys done? You feel better? No? So it didn't work. and then I come in
Mhm.
afterwards, and you can come in small as just an observer, but you come in big as an observer. Maybe it's coming at the same, doing the same thing from two
I,
different directions.
yeah. Well, I'm glad you bring up that we both play to who we are as people, and I think Pete, you were a naturally quieter
Yeah,
observer,
I'm
and I,
conflict averse too. That's me.
yeah, I think though that doesn't mean that you're ineffectual, right? Like I think that
Oh,
when you come into a thing quietly, I tend to listen because you're a good authority figure because you're intelligent and capable and caring, and so I think that comes across. And so your natural capacity to be quiet, I don't have that natural capacity.
well, it's important for anybody thinking about therapy to be like, well, I can't be a therapist because I have this loud personality. I'm big and boisterous, and like I enjoy people. I just love it. I thought either I'd go into sales or go into therapy. And they're like, but I want to go into therapy. And you're like, that's okay. That's okay. You
Yeah.
bring who you are, and you know what? You are going to jive with some people that they will get you, and
Hmm.
you will get them, and you'll talk exactly the way that they need to hear.
Yes.
So this is in general, not just MFTs or MSWs, but it reminds me of a story of George Costanza, where he was, yeah, I know, good old George, off the movie Seinfeld. He
TV show.
TV show. He loved um, acting, and he actually went to, I think, Brown, but he had this teacher, and he wanted to be a dramatic actor. He wanted to be
George
Shakespeare.
Costanza?
He did. He wanted to be Shakespeare, and Shakespearean actor wanted to be
Are
a
you talking
serious
about the
actor.
character or are you talking about the actor?
Sorry, the actor. The actor wanted to be.
Jason Alexander.
Sorry, yes. Jason Alexander.
I was like, George Costanza didn't go to Brown.
No. Sorry. The actor for George Costanza. He
Yeah.
got taken aside by one of his teachers and said, I know your heart is with Hamlet, and you would be a profound Hamlet, but you will never play Hamlet. You are
Mm.
20 pounds overweight, you're balding, and you're short. You should start thinking about comedy. And you can imagine that conversation, how hard that would have been for him, but also for the teacher who's like, I need to, if this guy's going to have a shot, I have to tell him the truth.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, that's like therapy, where you are given the opportunity every day to be brave in the way that you talk. Am I going to approach something that is uncomfortable, that I'm afraid of offending people? Yes, I don't like offending people, but I have to risk it for their sake. And so I always say that
Yeah.
therapy gives you the opportunity to be brave.
That's a great way of putting that. I didn't know that about Jason Alexander too. He's so well spoken. I'm not surprised he went to Brown.
Yeah.
I wish this is make me a little aside. I kind of wish there were more people who, more teachers in therapy training programs who would pull students aside and be like, "You're not.
Not
This
a
is not for
therapist.
you."
Yeah. Think about sales.
Yeah, there's someone I went to in my undergrad program. We were in the same congregation for a little bit, and she was like, "I'm going to be a therapist. I'm going to be a therapist." And then she would talk about her job as a salesperson and how she I think what she actually said was, "These people come up and they waste my time asking the most obvious questions, and it just makes me so mad." And I was like, "I don't think you should be a therapist." And she got mad and never talked to me again.
Oh,
I
man.
stand by what I said. She would have been a horrific therapist.
Yeah, you'll get a lot of stupid questions. Um,
Yeah.
in
And they're
terms
not
of,
stupid because they're genuine.
yeah, exactly. They're real people. Like when someone breaks up with their girlfriend, it's literally the hardest thing that's ever happened to them. That is true, and the pain is real, and you can't just laugh at them. I mean, that's real.
Yeah.
So tell me
Yeah.
about your master's degree, a master of arts, I think, right?
Yes. Yes. Not science because therapy is an art, not a
It's an
science.
art.
I have a master's degree in, like I said, existential phenomenology. So my master's degree, what that means is, first off, I'm trained specifically and explicitly to do individual counseling. And I had classes in group dynamics and couples counseling, so I can do it. But the nature of the degree is such that I am trained to sit and be a therapist. And what that means is that if that's all I want to do, then great. If I want to do other stuff, it's a bit of a harder sell. Getting a master's degree in clinical psychology uh, means that I'm trained to be a clinician, and that's about as much as the training is. But it means the training is super specific. I'm a specialized tool. I'm a tool.
Your tool. That's what I got from psychologists that I work with too. People dealing with psychology knew the diagnostic criteria so much better than I did. like when I'm dicing around, like what does this mean, and like what kind of diagnosis does this look like? People who are specially trained in clinical individual work, like I said, social workers are Swiss Army knives, so we get trained in a lot of different stuff at the sacrifice
Hmm.
of specialty. So it's really helpful when you have somebody who knows clinical stuff
Yeah.
right out of school.
Yeah. Like if I got a job at a hospital and my job was to navigate finding support systems outside of the clinical environment, I would not be as good as a social worker. I could do it, but it's not something that would naturally, I just don't have the training in it. But man, you put me in a room with somebody and you tell me you need to get them feeling comfortable and you need to get them talking. Got you. I got you, boo. That is
Yeah.
not a problem for me in any way, shape, or form. I can do that. I know how to do it. I know how to help people feel comfortable. I know different diagnostic criteria. I know different modalities of treatment. More than anything, my degree is specifically and especially I have studied a lot of philosophy, and so I know philosophically what it is to be a human being. I know philosophically what it is to be suffering, and I know how to combine the two and sit in love and acceptance of people who are doing unlovely and unacceptable things. That's my specialty.
That does sound artistic. Sounds like
Yeah,
poetry.
it's an art.
If you're going to go
Yeah, and
for
the reason
if you go for a doctorate, then would it be a PhD in existential phenomenology, or would you go into psychology? I'm just wondering, not you
uh
personally, but I mean in general, someone who goes from Master of Arts mental health counselor to go into a doctoral level. What kind of doctor do they look like?
I will answer that question in the PhD section.
Oh, okay.
Before we do that, are there any other questions you have about master's degree level stuff?
In terms of counseling, um, when you said what it's like to be a human, and I'm thinking about like practical stuff, like diagnostic criteria and stuff. When you
Hmm.
say philosophically what it means to be human, what are some of the what's something that like hit you when you were being trained to be a clinician that you're like, oh, being a human is blank. Like, what is something that you took away that was really meaningful?
There are two things that pop to my mind with that. First is Martin Buber, not to be confused with Justin Bieber. Martin Buber was a philosopher who had this idea called the I thou, which is to say there's me, I am the I, and you are the thou, and everything we do is an interaction between the I and the thou. Um, you are holy. The thou is holy. The thou is a representation of a holy thing, and the way I interact with the thou is a question of recognizing majesty, right? So that's one thing that kind of stuck with me. The big one is the face of the other. And this is the core of kind of the training program I went through. But and more than anything else, this and Heidegger pop up the most.
Hmm.
The face of the other calls to me. And my response is an answer to the question of the face of the other. The face of the other means you are the other. You have a face. Your face calls to me because I see it. I recognize it. You're putting things out through your face. You're communicating a lived experience. You're communicating an entire universe inside your brain. You are the other, and your face questions your place in my existence. So, like, if I walk down the street and see a homeless person, they're asking me a question, and the question they're asking me is, "Do I matter? Do I exist to you?" And how I respond to that cements their understanding of themselves and their universe, and cements my understanding of myself in my universe. So I look at the face of the other and I respond, or I don't. Now, you and I having this conversation, by hearing what you say, I respond to the value that your face brings into my existence. You have things about yourself that are different from me. They're valuable. The way I value those differences is the way I value you. And the answer to the question is yes, I value you as a person. Does that make sense?
It sounds like then you are purposefully differentiating your experience from other people's, because we often naturally say, oh, they're like me and they have these experiences, therefore, and you try to assimilate people into you, but you're saying the other then is a very hard line. There's a wall between me and this other person that
An infinite chasm, I would say. And
ne-
I would say, yes, that's a very interesting way of phrasing it. But yes, you and I are infinitely different and we can make assumptions about each other. I will never know what you mean. I can assume and I can get like 99% of the way there. And that's what language does. Language builds bridges that come out of our mouth, and you have a little bridge of language that comes out, and they meet in the middle, and we can come to the edge of our understanding of each other and shout across whatever gap is left.
mm-hmm. Oh
but
man.
you are infinitely separate and unknowable. And that infinitely unseparate and unknowable self means you are infinitely discoverable. There's always more to find out, and there's always more context, and there's always more implication and direction, and it's beautiful. And so when we talk about the face of the other, we're talking about an entire universe waiting to be discovered of beauty and sadness and joy and hope and despair. That's the core of what I do.
I don't know if that sounds like something that you found out during training that impacted you, but I'll tell you what, that really impacted me. You gifted me a book once by Emmanuel Levinas called Psychology and the Other.
Oh, that was about Levinas. I mean,
Oh, about
Levinas did not
Levinas.
write
That's
that
right.
book.
Somebody interviewed Levinas, and he didn't understand why they'd want to gear it towards psychology. That's right. He
Yes,
seems,
George Coons, Dr. George Coons. Yeah, one of
but
my professors, loved him to death.
really, but that
Hmm.
book made me think about philosophy in a very deep way. So as the other, because you naturally, your empathy wants to draw people into your experience, into your Plato's cave, and say, oh, we're both
Hmm.
watching the same shadows on the wall. But it turns out, or the philosophy of the other is that no, we are in completely different caves trying to communicate the similar shadows that we're seeing on the wall.
Hmm.
Is a totally different way of thinking. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah,
interesting philosophy on how Taylor got to be a counselor.
yes, yes. So you asked the question. The question is, if I were to get a PhD, what would I do? There is a program in Pittsburgh at Duquesne University that also does existential phenomenological training for PhD students. I've thought a lot about getting a PhD and usually talk myself out of it because I don't want to do research. I have no interest in doing research at all. And that's not because I think research is bad, it's because I'm sure Pete will be shocked to hear I just don't care. Like, it's so much more interesting to me to sit with a person and discover them than to read about other people who I will never see. And I especially before this podcast, Pete is kind of changing this for me a little bit, and I'm legitimately surprised to say this, but before this, I did not see any purpose in the research when it came to clinical work because the research generally is not applicable in a clinical setting.
Because it's so
I
general, it's
thought,
so broad. It's yeah,
yeah,
and you're dealing with this
I can
one
read
person
about
in front of you.
exactly. You talked about that study in the Chinese study of like, what was that? Long term wellness benefits of like lifting a
Oh
chair,
yeah.
right? What on earth does that have to do with the mother of five whose husband is sick? Right. I see the difference now and I see it more how to integrate it. But before, I never really had an interest in getting a PhD, a doctoral level philosophical degree. Right. And that's because I don't want to do research because I don't think research moves the field forward in a clinical setting. Now, you can be a PsyD, and a PsyD is a doctoral level clinician that is designed to do clinical work. PhD is designed to do research and to teach. I don't want
Mhm.
to do research or teach. So there you
Social
go.
work has the same thing where we have a practitioner's doctorate. It's a DSW,
Mm,
Doctor of Social Work, and then we have the research teaching doctorate, which is PhD. So it's the
mm.
same kind of
What are you
thing.
getting?
A PhD. I do
Really?
I
You're not
do
getting.
enjoy teaching, and with a PhD, you can always go back to clinical work. It doesn't
Mhm.
limit you at all. Um, and I find research as just fascinating. I did have to come to terms with the fact that like you take all your findings at face value when someone answers this questionnaire, you can't go back and validate it. You just take all the answers and conglomerate them and find answers from them. That kind of bothered me because I'm like every person who's answering this questionnaire is an individual, and I kind of got brushed off like yeah, but that doesn't matter.
Mhm.
So and there's a feeling in listeners, you should know there is a feeling in the field in social work anyway that research is done in some kind of ivory tower, like it's done in academia, and that the people here don't really know what's going on. And when you're a master's level clinician dealing with this poor person dealing with depression or schizophrenia, why the heck are you going to sit down and read their research? They don't know what's going on. And so there is this combative nature, at least in the social work culture, of like where the research is coming from and who's it going to benefit. Like why clinical work and research work seems to be at odds with each other almost,
Mhm.
which is unfortunate because research informs therapy. But I see
It
what Taylor's
can.
saying. Yes, it can. It can.
So those are the different kinds of degrees. The ways that you get there are schooling, lots and lots of school.
Yep. DSWs for social workers, the doctor of social work, can be done mostly. It can be done online. I think
Mhm.
you have to do a practitioner and or a practical work, and then somehow show the work to a professor. But it can be done a lot online. PhDs are not done online very often. Difficult to get a
Yeah,
PhD in social work online.
yeah. I think that it's worth saying that you don't have to have a bachelor's degree in these fields to get a master's degree in them. You'll probably have to take some courses. If so, let's say you have a bachelor's degree, like Pete had a biology bachelor's degree. He was able to get into a master's of social work program. I'm assuming without much problem. Maybe did you have to take any
Yeah.
classes to make up any gaps?
No, I had a previous master's in education. In
Do you have two master's
I
degrees?
do. Yeah, I have a
Oh,
MED and an MSW. But my first master's degree specialized in applied behavior analysis, which is very pragmatic, like reinforcement and
hmm.
punishment, positive and negative. It's very like do these things to modify behavior. So
Skinner in his box.
yeah, exactly. And it's pigeons and Pavlov, all that stuff. So I but I think I could have gotten into a master's degree with just the undergrad too.
Hmm.
But I tell you
I
what,
know there are people in my cohort who had someone had a master or bachelor's degree in interior design,
oh wow.
and they were able to get a master's degree in counseling. They had to take like a psychology class or two and all that, but she's a great clinician, by the way.
Mm,
Amy Bertoft. She's fantastic at what she does. And her master's degree is different from her bachelor's degree. So if you find yourself having finished a bachelor's degree and you feel like, well, I want to be a therapist, I just don't have the background, that's not a problem. That's absolutely in no way, shape, or form a limiting factor. Again, you might have to take like a course in psychology to show that you know what you're doing on some conceptual level,
yeah.
but you can absolutely get a master's degree of various kinds, a social work, MFT, just a straight up master's,
Yeah.
all well within your reach.
And hopefully the specialties make sense as we described them, depending on what your jam is.
Yes, 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 yes. Uh, we're like an hour in, and you had this really interesting research thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we already an hour in?
No,
We
no,
are. Okay.
yeah,
So I'm gonna maybe go into just quickly some of the stuff I found. The job market for therapists out in the country is really good, and it's going to get better, which means really, really hard. So there's a lot of burnout. Retention rates in shortage areas is at 42% back in 2017, and
mm,
42% retention rate within the next 5 years, which is not great. Um, in places in the United States that have shortages, nearly 1 in 5 counties, that's 20% of the U.S., has a shortage in therapists. And projections from the Health Resource and Services Administration, a government website, their projections for mental health therapists is like we're at in the next 10 years, mental health counselors are going to be at 55% based on the need. So if we're at 100%, we'd be meeting the demand. Mental health
mm,
counselors will be at 55%. Psychologists, which understandably is a doctorate level degree, but psychologists will be at 44%. Social workers will be at 85%. Still lower than what we need.
mm.
Um, Part of that,
And real quick, I
yeah,
just realized we didn't talk about what a psychologist or a PsyD can do that a master's level can't. Psychologists, PhDs and PsyDs and DSWs, I imagine, can do diagnostic things that master's degrees can't. For example, if you want a full mental health evaluation or a screening, like a full report with full diagnostics, administering tests, designing tests in some cases. Like I know that like a master's level clinician in Washington, for example, is not allowed to diagnose ADD or autism because that
yes,
requires a
yeah,
doctoral level.
exactly. We had to send people when I was community mental health. We had to send people across the street to Doctor So and So to do an ADHD and autism spectrum disorder diagnosis. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's unique, and these long assessments can take hours of questions and answers, and they're very very research based assessments, and psychologists specialize in assessments.
Yeah. So sorry. So talking about the need,
Oh yes.
55%.
So the need is based on the turnover, not just enough therapists coming into the field, but the fact that there is a turnover. I don't think financially we value mental health therapists a lot because community mental health agencies are financially fluid. They get grants and fund it that way. So if they miss their grant, they may not be able to fund a full staff of therapists. So you have this experience of being in a mental health facility and wondering if in the next 5 years you're still going to be there. That sounds like, wait, I'm not making enough money. But what that really means is that you are dealing with the financial strain, mental strain, some emotional stress of your job that other people may not have to deal with. So, as this research said, it's a tumultuous financial environment in community mental health, which causes
Mm-hmm.
turnover. Tumultuous financial environment. That's a nice way to say that. But in any case, um, we started off this episode talking about the beautiful stories that we experience with people, and we can see change in the beauty of it. But we have to also recognize that the job is demanding more of people with less resources. Your caseload is going to be full, and could be that the mental health stuff you see gets more serious. I saw more schizophrenia as my experience went on, stuff like that, more severe personality disorders. And so you'll experience some pretty heavy things and navigate a tumultuous financial environment if you're in community mental health. Not to say you
Yeah.
will, but you might. I'm just saying it's a risky venture.
Yeah, community mental health is the thing that I know. I left community mental health and never have any intention of going back, and that's because of I feel like this is some people will disagree with this, and I don't think Pete necessarily is one of them, but I feel like community mental health leadership tends to be the people who stay, which is to say, people who thrive in toxic environments tend to be the people who rise to the top there. Community mental health is hard because you have none of the training that you ever get, certainly none of the training I've ever gotten or talked to people who've gotten, has anything to do with running business. And when you're working in community mental health, you are writing grants, but you're also managing people and you're also trying to navigate financial expenditures, not just getting grants, but how to spend it. You're also trying to
Mm-hmm.
navigate growth and marketing, and it's a lot. And
As
so
a
community
leader,
mental
like
health,
those people are doing that.
they're doing it. They have no idea what they're doing, not because they're stupid, but because they just don't have any training on
Mm-hmm.
it. Everybody that I know in this field is figuring out the business side of it kind of by the seat of their pants. I know I did. I was very fortunate that my father is an entrepreneurial lawyer. And so he's like, here are the things you need as a structure for a business. But when it came down to like how to present myself in the world, how to manage my finances, how to market, it was all trial and error. And it was really hard. Community mental health is that, but bigger, with people who they don't they don't want to worry about money. They want to worry about helping people, but they have to worry about money, and that creates a split where they're
Yes.
doing a thing they want to do and a thing they really hate doing, and it's really hard. And it might sound like I'm just like dunking on community mental health centers, and I kind of am because they suck, but they serve a very real purpose. The suck is not what they do. The suck is the way they do it at the top down, right? I firmly believe, and I really, really strongly believe anybody who has any kind of hope of being a clinician, I think should be required, and I just shoulded my pants. Yes, I think they should be
Like
required to
a
work in community mental health.
CMH draft. Everyone has to serve for 2 years.
Absolutely, because the things you get out of the experience of going to community mental health, yes, it's really hard. Yes, you'll be
Mm-hmm.
overloaded with clients, but one, there's a very real need, and two, that's work.
You
It will
see,
teach you how to do the
yes,
job.
that was my first job coming out of school, was in this publicly funded community mental health agency. And I saw the clinician side of this. I mean, I was getting, you see your leadership like buying cases of beer and alcohol at Costco, and you're like, oh, they must be having a rough time. And,
Yeah.
but then as a clinician, when I go to work, it's like, it was just like being a workhorse, just client after client, just see as many as you can. And you're going from like depression, I don't feel good, to like batting the flying bats away in front before their eyes. Like they're just severely hallucinating. I saw meth induced psychosis, guys coming to my office
Mhm.
high and drunk. Someone who got into jail, one of my clients, and they're like, you need to go see him. So I had to go walk to the jail and go make sure that go see if they were okay. Um, that kind of stuff it is just intense. It's like first responder
Yes.
kind of work, and which is why I became a
Yes.
DCR, a designated crisis responder. That was first aid mental health. That was, the cops will call you at any time you're on call, day or night, and you go and answer the call. But that was designated crisis responder as well as at community mental health. And
Hmm.
that is the intense work of mental health. You see the greatest need in community mental health.
Yeah, and it does a lot for building the empathy that you need to do your job effectively. Um, I I have memories of I was in Boston. This guy was talking to him. The only time I ever saw this guy, we sat down on a bench and he pointed across the street where there were little kids walking because they were walking past. They were going home from school. There was a school.
Mm-hmm.
They were walking home from school. He said 3 days ago a man was shot to death right there at about this time of day. And like what that does to a person to say that so calmly, knowing that children were probably there to witness it, knowing what that does to a community. There's so much to like talk about an entire universe of discoverability. The implications of that across the board are crucial to understanding why people do what they do and how they do it and how they make choices and how they get stuck in systems. Community mental health is where it is all learned.
Yeah,
And I
growing up as a military brat, I grew up kind of in a sterile community because the military is the military, and so you grow up on bases, you kind of experience. So when I was in community mental health, dealing with the people who need it the most, it was not just it was a little scary a lot of times, but also fascinating. Just these people that were making it work, and people were coming up from the lowest part of their lives and doing better. And I was just like eating it up every day of like, this is amazing. Like you don't. My first success story was in community mental health with a 12-year-old girl who went from being in my office with her mother, could not be alone with anybody, let alone a man, because she dealt with abuse, to coming to my office by myself, smiling, which was big. And then when she's telling me about her experiences, and I was like, "Who was that?" She goes, "That was Kyle." And that moment when she said, "Oh, it was Kyle," was such a breakthrough for me of like, she said his name and she
mhm.
was in the room with me and we were playing a game. We were playing a game, but whatever we were doing, but she's just talking about it. And it wasn't like she was trying to avoid it or minimalize it. She was just talking about it like it was Tuesday. And I was like, "Yes, good for you. Good for you,
Yes.
X."
Yes.
Oh
I
man.
can hear maybe a cynic hearing that and going, well, you're just talking about being a tourist in poverty. And like, that is not at all what Pete is talking about. Pete is talking about an unfolding of humanity. You know, people have asked me, how can I have so much faith in humanity? And because of what's Pete's talking about, going to places where people have nothing and seeing them be beautiful people. And I'm not talking like they're very cute to look at. I'm talking about just like the core strength of their humanity
Mhm.
inspiring me to be a better
Yep.
person.
A grandmother taking care of her granddaughter who has behavioral issues, and the mother has had her parental rights taken away. So grandma's raising
Hmm.
this kid and she doesn't remember how to raise a kid. A 6-year-old with behavioral issues. How the heck do I deal with this?
Oh,
And
I've
so
been in almost the exact same situation, and I believe in heaven, and I if you don't, then ignore what I'm about to say. But I genuinely, truly believe that the kingdom of heaven will be populated at the top highest level of whatever is there will be populated by grandmas who have been on welfare who took care of little children.
yes.
And like it sounds silly, but some of the most impressive, beautiful women I've ever met. I knew a woman one time who had cancer who was taking care of a son whose both of his parents had lost parental rights, been through horrific abuse, and just what she was doing for him. I was like, if you don't get into heaven, then there is no God, because like unreal what
Yeah.
this woman was doing for her. This the best of humanity is found in these situations. And so I think that's part of why people need to work in community mental health. This is my spicy take for the day. If you have gone and gotten a master's degree and you eschew community mental health work and go straight into private practice and never work in the community, I don't trust you as a therapist. I think you're a bad therapist
Ooh,
and
that is
perhaps
a
a little
spicy
greedy.
take. There is something to be said for wanting money, and which is something I had to get over. You need to talk about money. You need to think about money. You need to work
Hmm.
towards money because as a therapist, you have to fight for it. Um,
Yeah.
you do have to fight for it and you have to plan for it and do your best. That doesn't mean the most lucrative jobs. It means live within your means and do what you can as you
Hmm.
build up. So I think community mental health is good for people as a practice. Uh, just make sure it makes sense.
Well,
Okay. Well, this is a
last
great
question,
topic.
Pete.
All right. What's the last
Yeah, it's
question?
been a great question. The last question is, what would you tell someone who's thinking about entering clinical work?
That was my question. I wrote that one, so you have to answer that one first.
Dagnabbit. Um, if I've had conversations with people who want to be therapists, and they ask questions like, "What's it like? How do you do it?" I think what I tell them is, be prepared for hearing really hard things.
Mm-hmm.
Be prepared to not be able to fix everything you hear, and be prepared for a profession if you have the natural constitution for it. That is pure fulfillment. Um, it is possible. A lot of people talk about there's no money in therapy. It's kind of true, but also, obviously, I'm paying my bills through it. Pete's paying his bills through it. It's not. I'm never going to be a millionaire necessarily, but that's fine. I have enough, and it's a great job that will change you fundamentally in how you view people. I think for the better. You learn how to set boundaries. If you can function with it and you can set good boundaries, you've got a beautiful career ahead of you. Be prepared for a lot of suffering that you have to witness, though.
Yeah. Um, I So for me, what I would tell somebody coming into the field would probably be to hold on to the golden moments, because it's really easy as a human to latch on to the hard things, and you'll carry those hard stories with you a whole lot. But you need to write down. I have a folder of like thank you notes from people and positive outcomes and stuff that I've done, that I've been involved in, because those are easy to forget for some reason. You have to hold on to the
Mm-hmm.
golden moments. Um, the the young kid that I worked with who overcame her traumatic experience. I also have some patients in the military who we didn't have time enough together to get through all of their trauma, and I hang my hat on those. I hang my hat on those few people that have overcome it. I've led groups, and one of them, one of those guys, I keep in touch with, and he just did amazing. He saved his marriage. He and his wife reconciled. He lost weight, and now he helps other veterans deal with trauma. And every time I saw him, it was something like, "You really helped me, man. That really was awesome." And it's just such. It is the miracle of therapy that you feel like you didn't do anything. We talk and we explore this thing according to my training, and um, and it just jived, it clicked, it worked, and they grew. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no gratitude to myself except for them, like the work they do. You've given this type of stuff over and over, and sometimes it clicks and sometimes it doesn't, but you just try and try, and then when they do the work, they actually do the work, you're just in awe of them. It's all them. And so hold on to the golden moments.
Yeah.
There's this interesting paradox of like, if they do really well, you want to say you did everything, they did amazing, and then if they fail and they didn't do well, you think, man, I'm a horrible therapist. Or you
Yeah.
think they didn't do the work. Right? You have to tell themselves, did you do the work? No. So why am I blaming myself?
Yeah. Well, this might be better for the next episode, where we talk about, today was how do you become a therapist. Next time we'll talk about what is it like to be a therapist. And they sound like they're kind of similar, but they're very different
Yes.
questions.
How to become and how to be, like, once you're in it,
Or how to
navigating
be.
that.
What a great way to phrase that. Yeah. Cool.
Thanks.
Well, let's put a pin in it there. Well, there's how I end my therapy sessions. Well, let's put a pin in it there. Just fell right out of my mouth.
Awesome.
We'll keep the conversation going next time.
Okay. Thanks, Taylor.
Love you, see you, Pete.
You too.